Hey, I'm Alex Feisley back again, and this time we're going to be talking about DNS in Netmaker. So DNS in Netmaker can be set on three different levels. There's the network level, there's the gateway level, and there's the device level. So at all three of these levels, you're able to set DNS settings. On both the network and the gateway level, you're basically able to choose from three options. You can use Netmaker's Private DNS, you can use your own private DNS, or you can set public DNS servers. So for private DNS, DNS is built into the Netmaker platform, and you can add your own entries as well as use the automatically generated DNS entries that are put on all endpoints. Alternatively, let's say you have a private DNS server internally, let's say at the office or data center. You can configure Egress to point to this DNS server and then set your internal DNS to this server. Lastly, if you're using our Internet Gateway feature, you're going to want to be able to route your DNS requests, and you should set a public DNS provider here. On the device level, you're able to turn on and off DNS on your devices or your nodes that are using the net client, and you're also able to set custom DNS for individual WireGuard config files. So let's take a look at these inside of the platform. Here in the sidebar, you can see our DNS screen here. So already there have been DNS entries generated for all of our devices inside the network. Alternatively, we can add our own DNS entry. So let's say, for instance, we have our remote access to a site. Let's say we have an app server running on the site, and we want to create a DNS entry for that. So let's say app.server, and we'll enter our own IP address. Let's say it's on 37, and we'll use that and create the DNS request. And we now have a custom DNS request here. Now on the entire network, you're able to configure your own custom name server. Let's talk about that briefly with our egress as well. So let's say instead on our remote site, we have a DNS server running here. And let's go ahead and use that as our DNS server for the network. So configure DNS name servers, we're going to add that here, and that's at .53, let's say. And we've gone ahead and added that. So we now have that name server added to our network. Both of these can also be used on the gateway level rather than at the network level. So this will be added to any devices that use the gateway. So for instance, WireGuard config files and our user devices that are attached to the gateway. So if we go to our gateway, go here, and you can go ahead and set the DNS server to whatever you want, including the cloud overlay private DNS, which is the same DNS entries that we have on our Netmaker server. So next I want to talk about just the internet access. So let's say you have configured a gateway for internet access. It's very important to set a DNS server there, and you're typically going to want to use a public DNS server there, unless you have something maybe internally already set up for this, but just make sure to go ahead and set that. Moving on to the device level, let's go over to our nodes, and there's just a couple options here to be aware of. So for instance, let's go to our Cloud Linux node. We can edit that. So you can see in our device settings, there's an option to turn on and off DNS. And then over in our WireGuard config files, you can also see in there, in our advanced settings, the option to set your own DNS. And that's it. That's all you need to know about setting up DNS on Netmaker. So if you have any questions about that, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.